The U.S. and Canada, two huge countries, one border, and what a controversial one. Despite the fact that the border between these countries is an important aspect and is of great importance to the people of these countries, some people express themselves in a very humorous way towards it. Indeed, there are several aspects that question its legitimacy. Therefore, let's take a closer look at the issue and answer the question of whether the U.S.-Canada border is really a joke. At the very beginning, we will discuss its history. We will look at how it has been shaped over the years and what were the key moments in its history. We will outline its unique features and challenges and see what problems it is currently facing. We will also mention geography, which plays a huge role when it comes to managing the area. We'll explain what exactly the border joke is and see if it has a real basis. There will also be no shortage of politics. We will show what decisions have been made in this area by those in power in recent years, as well as what the current situation is. It is well known that striving for better management of the border and solving problems related to it is important for both countries and their people. Recently, some people have decided to take matters into their own hands and have created an appeal entitled, "Joe Do Something." We will analyze exactly what it really is and see what the basis for it is. As for the future of the border, there are several areas that need improvement. It's time to check which ones specifically and to find out whether the jocular opinions on the subject take into account the full geopolitical context, as well as the mutual interests of the two countries. I invite you to watch. The U.S.-Canada border has a rich history and great significance for both countries. It is the longest unarmed border in the world, stretching 8,891 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific Ocean in the west. It separates the United States from Canada and crosses a variety of geographic regions, including mountains, rivers, and lakes. Its history dates back to the 18th century, when both colonies were part of the British Empire. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris ended the War of American Independence, establishing the country's border on the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes. After this treaty, the border between these areas was poorly defined and controversial. Therefore, in 1818, the Treaty of Ghent was signed, which confirmed the boundary on the St. Lawrence River, but still left some areas in dispute. In 1846, the Oregon Treaty was signed, which established the border to the west along the 49th parallel. Final decisions were made in 1903, when the Hay-Pauncefote Treaty was signed, which established the border between Alaska and Canada. The border between the U.S. and Canada is of great importance to both countries, both politically and economically. Politically, it is an example of a long-standing and peaceful neighborhood between two large countries. It is also important for the national security of both countries and serves as a barrier to drug smuggling and illegal migration. Economically, the U.S.-Canada border is one of the most important points of trade in the world. The two sides conduct a huge amount of trade, involving billions of dollars worth of goods and services. The border enables the free flow of various types of goods, as well as industrial and logistical integration in the region. It is also important for tourism, cross-cultural friendship, and cooperation in cultural, educational, and scientific fields. Both sides of the border have numerous joint projects, as well as national parks and twin cities that strengthen ties between the two nations. Undeniably, border management is an important element for both countries in terms of national security, trade, migration, and cooperation in various fields. However, what does it look like in practice? After all, on the one hand, both countries care about friendly international relations, and on the other hand, each country cares about the interests of its own country. There are several common problems, so it's time to see what cooperation looks like in solving them. One challenge is border control. It must be properly managed to ensure the security of both countries. In recent years, an important issue has been the prevention of illegal smuggling of goods, drugs, and weapons. However, migration control is an equally important aspect. Both countries strive to monitor and control the movement of people to prevent illegal travel between countries, combat migration-related crime, and promote legal means of movement of people in the area. The U.S. and Canada are important trading partners, and border management affects the flow of goods between the two countries. Cooperation in the area of trade and facilitating the flow of goods is a challenge, as trade must be allowed to flow smoothly while maintaining adequate customs procedures and security. The two countries must also cooperate on information sharing, coordinate border services, and share technologies and tools for effective border management. The specifics of geography play a big role in all of this. The border crosses a variety of geographic areas such as mountains, rivers, forests, and lakes. This diversity of terrain poses challenges for effective border control, especially in hard-to-reach areas. It is necessary to adapt strategies and technical means to different terrain conditions to enable effective management of the area along its entire length. Although the border was established many years ago, it is nevertheless one of the most controversial borders, and its existence is the subject of much debate and dispute all the time. Opinions on it vary, but among them, there is no shortage of opinions that the border is a joke. Why? Many argue that it is highly artificial and unnecessary. There are several potential reasons that could lead to such conclusions. There is, for example, the fact that the U.S. and Canada share many cultural and linguistic features. Both countries speak mainly English, although French is also spoken in Canada, and there is a lot of economic exchange between them. This proximity and similarity can lead to a kind of joking attitude toward the border, which can be seen as informal or a minor obstacle to overcome. Additionally, there is a very friendly relationship between the countries. The U.S. and Canada are longtime allies and enjoy friendly relations on many levels, including economic, political, and cultural. This atmosphere of trust and cooperation can also lead to the border being treated as some sort of joke or symbolic division. Border control only confirms this, as it is negligible in some areas. Compared to other interstate borders, the U.S.-Canada border is much less fortified and has fewer crossing formalities. In some regions, it is so open that people can cross it without much paperwork, especially in rural or sparsely populated areas. It is worth noting, however, that despite the joking attitude of some people toward the border, its management between the U.S. and Canada remains an important aspect for both countries. The division of the two countries did not come out of nowhere, and security, migration, trade, and other common issues still require effective management, even if a group of people view it as a joke. There is no denying that the management of the border is significantly influenced by the two countries' policies, both internal and external. The U.S. authorities have had different approaches to the border issue, which has affected its current state. Let's take a closer look at how, in terms of border policy in the area, the rulers have approached in recent years. Between 2009 and 2017, Barack Obama sought to strengthen border security, especially in the context of preventing illegal drug and weapon smuggling. At the same time, programs such as DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, were introduced to give protection to some illegal immigrants who came to the U.S. as children. Between 2017 and 2021, Donald Trump focused on strengthening border controls and introducing a zero-tolerance policy toward illegal migration. As a result, some changes were made to immigration policy, including the separation of immigrant families at the border. These policies have been met with controversy and criticism from many social and international groups. In contrast, since Joe Biden became U.S. president in 2021, his government has made some changes to border policy. One of the main priorities has been to relax some of the measures introduced by the previous administration on migration. However, there is still a desire to maintain border security and control illegal migration and smuggling. Expectations for the authorities' actions are obviously high and extreme, and a Joe Do Something PLS appeal has been created. It is a general expression of frustration and expectations about the actions of the government and the president, and covers a variety of issues, including border management. There is a real basis for this appeal, especially if we consider the specific problems or challenges of border management that require attention and action. However, policy decisions are complex processes in which many factors must be considered. That is, security, immigration policy, international cooperation. It is also worth noting that the border is subject to discussion and debate, both in society and in political circles. Different groups and stakeholders have different perspectives and expectations of border policy, which can influence the particular decisions of those in power. Controversy abounds, opinions on the border do as well, but what specifically could be changed in the future to improve the situation? There are several areas where changes would benefit both the U.S. and Canada, as well as their people. At the outset, it is worth addressing the issue of increasing cooperation between the U.S. and Canada in managing the border. This could benefit in the areas of security, combating cross-border crime and information sharing. Joint activities such as sharing data and intelligence, training border services, and sharing best practices can help improve the effectiveness of border management. Another proposal is to facilitate the movement of goods, which would have economic benefits for both countries. Simplification of customs procedures, harmonization of standards and regulations, and the use of modern technology can help reduce delays and costs associated with the movement of specific materials products. Developing migration programs, such as visa programs or temporary work permits, can help manage legal migration and contribute to economic development in both countries. Promoting legal migration can also counter illegal migration. The role of investment in infrastructure is also worth highlighting. We are talking about the development of roads, bridges, ports, and border crossings, which can improve the smooth flow of traffic and movement of people and goods. Infrastructure improvements can also support the development of local communities and trade. Well, but if it is known what needs to be improved, why are these changes not being implemented? The limitations and possibilities of these proposals are related to various factors, such as domestic politics, national security, financial resources, international regulations, and bilateral cooperation. Making changes requires cooperation between the two countries, time and effort to reach consensus on priorities and measures to be taken. In addition, border management is also a political and social issue, and different groups and stakeholders may have different perspectives and expectations. It is necessary to take these diverse perspectives into account and find a balance between border security and facilitating the movement of people and goods. So, after analyzing all the issues in this topic, it comes out that the U.S. Canada border is not a literal joke. It is an actual area separating two sovereign states, which is important for security, trade, migration, and cooperation between the two countries. Some people may use a joking tone when referring to the border, which is due to certain cultural, historical, or similarity-related contexts between the U.S. and Canada. However, after all the analysis we have done, we can clearly see that it is a formal point of territorial division that is managed by the authorities and border services of both countries. It is important for security, trade, migration, and cooperation between the two countries. It is worth understanding that despite the humorous comments, the U.S.-Canada border has real consequences and plays an important role in relations between the two countries. Admittedly, the countries are very similar in terms of language, history, and culture, but for some reason, they have been divided, and instead of denying its presence, it is worth focusing on making changes that can improve its functioning. And there are several changes to be made related to border zone management, migration, infrastructure development, or trade, among others. This would certainly have an impact on the economies of both countries as well as on society, but whether, how much, and when will they be implemented, time will tell. What do you guys think on this topic? Does the U.S.-Canada border make sense, or is it actually a joke and should be gone? Let us know in the comments. And I thank you very much for your attention and see you in the next video. Bye.